The first self-help book I ever read was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. The last self-help book I'll ever read is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. This is why. To fully understand my journey through the world of self-help, we have to go back. I finished secondary school when I was just 14, so I had to take a couple of gap years before going to university. The first year was fine. Then the second year rolled around and my friends started getting busy, going to school, making new friends. But there I was, completely unproductive with absolutely nothing to do. I felt worthless, felt like an underachiever, I felt like a disappointment. I felt like a young adult who could never achieve the success of his childhood. I had all these big dreams and goals, but I didn't know where to start. So of course I went to the best teacher I'd ever known, YouTube. I started watching videos about how to achieve your goals and live the life you want, how to be more productive, get more done in less time, how to be the best version of yourself. And at first, it felt amazing. I started creating to-do lists, setting goals, plans, New Year resolutions. The fire in my eyes that I had as a child was rekindled. I could daydream once again. But as I kept going deeper and deeper into the world of self-help, tragically, my daydreams turned into nightmares. At the time, I thought the solution to my raging self-doubt was to go even deeper, create even more to-do lists, and listen to the gospel of productivity straight from the horse's mouth. So I moved on from watching YouTube videos to reading self-help books. The first one I ever picked up, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. If productivity was a church, Tim was the Pope, and I was about to get baptized and become a true believer. I started reading page after page and became more engrossed in the ideas Tim laid out in the book. I had always been a lazy person, so the thought of being able to do more in less time appealed to me greatly. To be able to make a living working just 4 hours a week, heck, sign me up. And so I did every single task Pope Timothy asked us to do until I got to the page where I realized that this book was not made for me or you. Tim Ferriss began explaining how to hire people in underdeveloped countries and underpay them because they would be grateful since their currency is bad. He didn't say it that way. He painted it with pretty words like delegation and using foreign experts. But when you're the worker bee, the queen bee is the easiest to distinguish from the rest of the swarm. And Pope Timothy was in fact the queen. Here I was reading a book that was teaching middle-aged white men how to exploit my people for cheap labor. I was disgusted. I put the book down and I never picked it up again. And that right there is my biggest problem with the world of self-help. Most self-help is centered around the experience of the traditional white cis male and the privilege that he is born into. It doesn't account for the diversity of experiences and the complexities that come with being born underprivileged. As Africans, it's cultural for us to live with our families until we make families of our own. Moving out of the house after college isn't nearly as commonplace here as it is in the Western world. And so learning to work in an environment with constant disturbance and a complete lack of solitude is peculiar to us. As Africans, we are not swamped with student loans after college, yes, but we also don't have a 90% chance of escaping poverty just because we went to school, because frankly, there just aren't any jobs available. We have to work twice as hard for jobs that are twice as difficult, only to get paid half as much because we would be grateful our currency is poor. And if this was the only problem with self-help, then maybe I would have kept my underprivileged mouth shut, but it's not. The truth is, self-help is not for me. And if you're also an overweight young adult, self-help is not for you too. You see, what is described as the ideal body type by these self-help gurus is deep-rooted in Eurocentric beauty standards. Africans, we are bigger, we have thicker thighs, we have bigger bums, we have wider hips. In Nigerian words, we full ground. But most of the self-help advice out there tells you that if you're not slim with a six-pack, then you're an unhealthy waste man who needs to get his life in order. You are constantly told that you can never be the best version of yourself if you don't work out 7 days a week and beat your body into shape. You look at all the gurus in front of you and all of them are either Gymshark athletes or wannabe Gymshark athletes. And then you look at yourself in the mirror with your bulging stomach and you cry yourself to sleep every night, reaffirming to yourself the stereotype that all fat people are lazy. Because you can get the ideal body by putting in just 4 hours of work each week, right? Wrong. The truth is that not everyone is born with the ability to lose and keep off weight as easily as all of these self-help gurus make it seem. And frankly, some people simply do not want to, and that's their choice. So constantly berating them because they don't have 6-pack abs and 3-ton muscles is stupid. Swim too far into the world of self-help and you just might fall into a narcissistic trench, where all you're doing is trying to be the best version of yourself at the expense of everyone you meet along the way. In reality, this is the problem with the wealthy in our world today. They're willing to exploit cheap labor, find ways to evade taxes, and simply do not do their due diligence for society, all in a bid to get to the top and stay there. It's a very selfish way to live life. And the reality of the matter is that if we all started thinking that way, society as we know it would crumble. There will be no more kind gestures, no more helping each other across the river, no more passing on the torch to the next generation. I'm a proud Igbo boy. After my people lost the war in 1970, many Igbo people had all the money in their banks seized, properties confiscated, and all they were handed was a measly £20 note. What did my people do? They gathered around and joined resources to send their oldest sons out into the world to make a living. In return, these men would come back after becoming successful to take the next eldest kinsman, train him in their line of business, and set him up for success thereafter. This, the Igbo apprenticeship system, or Iba boy in Igbo, is one of the most successful business models in the world today. It has made many millionaires and billionaires, all from just £20. Imagine if my fathers listened to the self-help gurus of today. Narcissism and a willingness to exploit the next man would have meant wealth in Igbo land wouldn't be nearly as widespread as it is today. You see, the truth is that self-help in and of itself is not bad. It helped me on my journey to get to where I am today. But perhaps, just like everything else in the world, the industry desperately lacks diversity, and as a result, it's hurting minorities. Sometimes I think about how many young people growing up in developing countries like me would have read Tim Ferriss's book and immediately accepted our fate as the worker bees for the rest of our lives. How many of us bigger kids would have accepted the Eurocentric beauty standards and now look at the mirror with disdain for how we look? I think about how many young Africans can't accept the message of self-help because it simply doesn't apply to any of the experiences they have. As such, they continue to languish in mediocrity because the proper advice to help them break the cycle just isn't available. Everything they hear was designed to be used against them and not for them, because all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than the others. I think about myself a few years ago, and I wish I could send him a letter. This letter, I want to tell him that he can be the queen bee. I want to tell him that his thicker thighs and pot belly do not make him lazy and unlovable. I want to tell him that he can escape the rat race. Yes, it's a completely different track from everything he will read about out there, but he'll find his way around eventually.